In the tradition of Malcolm X, peace be unto you. Well, I downloaded the report released by the Office of the Director of National Intelligence yesterday, June 25th, subtitled Preliminary Assessment Unidentified Aerial Phenomena, or UFOs. And I'm going to go through about 9 or 10 of the points in the report. It's a 9-page report, very short. I didn't expect them to tell us what they know, but they're in a corner. And what they have said in this report is enough for you to draw the conclusion that there are non-human intelligent beings or robots made by non-human intelligent beings surveying this planet, and that they've been doing so for thousands of years. And you can also conclude that people in your government and in corporate America that is controlling whatever technology that they've had access to, they know tons more than what they're telling the public. And so let's just begin with this basic idea. Scientists who work in the oceans and lakes on this planet discover new species of life regularly in the oceans, deep down in the oceans and lakes and in rivers. Now, what they do is they collect the specimens, if possible. They bring them back to their labs, usually at university campuses, and they dissect them and they identify their parts and they do DNA analysis in order to see what other animals they're related to, closely related to on the tree of life here on Earth. And we don't have a problem with that. We're used to knowing what scientists do, and no big deal, right? Because those animals that are discovered are not as intelligent as us. We're looking down on them. And so there's no uproar. But here, in this instance, we are observing some form of life or some manufactured robots of life forms that are so much more intelligent than the most intelligent people that have ever lived on this planet, that it is mind-boggling. So what is happening is that we're being observed. And probably we were discovered thousands of years ago on this planet, living a grubby life. So let me just touch on some of the statements I think drive home the point in this report. Now, number one, the report says that there are probably multiple types of unidentified aerial phenomena requiring different explanations based on the range of appearances and behaviors described in the available report. Okay, so let's dissect that statement. First, what I'd like you to do, if you have the report, is highlight probably, or put it at the end of the sentence instead of right there at the beginning. Because if you do, you get a proposition instead of a kind of vague opening to what is being claimed. Now, let me just read that without the adverb probably. There are multiple types of UAP requiring different explanations based on the range of appearances and behaviors described in the available reporting, comma, now you can throw probably in there. And what that basically means is, well, first of all, they've got to use a little deceit. They've got to throw you off track a little bit. But they're using probably here to imply greater than 50%, greater than 80% or 95% confidence level, we're certain. So we can take that as a government admission. It's vague, but it is an admission that the vehicles, the unidentified aerial phenomena are not from this earth, period. Now, then they go on to state something else. They state UAPs. I'm going to use that instead of saying unidentified aerial phenomena or UFOs every time. UAPs clearly pose a safety of flight issue and may pose a challenge to U.S. national security. Now, if you connect that to the first statement, all the vagary is taken away here, because now it probably becomes a certainty. They're saying clearly pose a safety of flight issue and may pose a challenge to U.S. national security. That's an admission. That's a straight up admission that some form of life, far more intelligent than human beings, is in control of those saucers, or what they call tic tacs, or other kinds of observed craft that fly wherever they want, whenever they want, in our atmosphere. And they land, and they've landed wherever they want to land. Now, what I want to say just before I go to the next statement is this. Animals, including us, we use body language all the time to communicate ideas, right? We know that. That's fundamental. In fact, most of what we communicate is through body language. So let's apply that to what these UAPs have been doing to jets and what they've been doing around military bases and the military labs where they experiment on we don't know, we have no idea of. We're taxpayers, but they don't tell us what they're doing with our money. Let's just get grounded here. When those UAPs buzz jets or buzz nuclear bomb sites or labs, what do you think the message is? It's like a body gesture. They're telling you something. And you don't need to know their language. But what you know is, if they can turn off your missile controls, if they can fly rings around your fastest jets, and do other things that you cannot wrap your mind around to understand, they're telling you they are in control. You are not in control. That they are in control and that they can take you out everywhere faster than you can possibly imagine. That's what they're saying to you. In fact, they're saying they are the dominant form of intelligence on this planet, not us. And so they go on to say that the data collected by the jet pilots is reliable. The data is reliable. So they cannot wash this away as they did in the 40s and the 50s and the 60s by saying, oh, well, the data is not reliable. It's based on what someone claimed they saw. This is now, this data is being collected by their jet pilots. Their top pilots. And I said before in a talk, these are some of the most highly trained individuals on Earth for flying jets and understanding how to read their equipment and communicate clearly what they're observing. Another thing that they said is that of the 144 reports originated from their sources, 80 reports involved observations with multiple sensors. In other words, Not only is the data reliable by virtue of the technology being used by the pilots, but they have gathered data from different sensors, and each sensor corroborates the other. And so we're talking about certainty. We can say, therefore, without any certainty, what is being reported actually exists. And it goes on then to say most reports describe UAP as objects that interrupted pre-planned training or other military activities. Now, as I finish up reading some of the other points, you're going to notice they keep bringing up the fact that these UAPs are buzzing military bases, military activities, and not just the United States. They're buzzing Russian military activities, and they're buzzing Chinese military activities, and probably other countries as well. Again, these are gestures. Let's just look at it at the level of body language. They are communicating something to these governments and their military activities. They're monitoring them, and maybe they're making the point that they have drawn a red line. You cross it, and things are going to go haywire for you, meaning for us. That's basic body language. And so what I would recommend is that whenever you read about these reports and what these vehicles are doing, try to see the action. What is that object? What is that UAP doing to signal to a pilot or to people on the ground? Now, what it also says in the report is that UAP sightings also tend to cluster around U.S. training and testing grounds, and that's what I said just a second ago, and that this may result from a collection bias as a result of focused attention. In other words, when they come around military bases, of course, there's tons of equipment and people who are very focused on observing anything unusual around a base where weapons are stored. So again, in 18 incidents described in 21 reports, observers reported unusual UAP movement patterns or flight characteristics. In other words, our top physicists in the military do not understand this at all. It defies all of their knowledge of physics. I mean, they go to Isaac Newton, they can't find anything in Isaac Newton's book. They go to Einstein, they can't understand it. They don't understand this. They do not understand it. Meaning, we're not the smartest at all. And I oftentimes in the past would tell my students, it took us 250,000 to 300,000 years to invent the wheel, despite the fact that everything around us is curved and rolls. So you think through that, and that will tell you something about us. We're not the brightest light bulb in the galaxy. So it then goes on to say that some UAP appear to remain stationary in winds aloft. In other words, despite the fact that there were high winds, they could remain stationary, like a helicopter. But even a helicopter can't remain absolutely stationary. They move against the wind whenever, abruptly, or move at considerable speed without discernible means of propulsion. There's no exhaust. There's no sign that they're burning fuel. And it says that in a small number of cases, military and aircraft systems process radio frequency energy associated with UAP sightings. Now, you listen to the radio, right? That means they're communicating at that frequency level. Radio frequency. Okay? So it then goes on to say that UAP holds a small amount of data that appear to show UAP demonstrating acceleration or a degree of signature management, meaning something's controlling these vehicles. Well, that goes without saying, right? So going toward their conclusion now, they say that the UAP probably lacked a single explanation. Now, there's 5 categories that they use to classify what they're studying. And some of it will take some people back to the 50s and the 60s when the Air Force, the U.S. Air Force, through their Project Blue Book, would just throw anything out to the public that generally had no basis upon which to begin to critically assess what they were being told. Well, number one, they say, it could be airborne clutter. 2, it could be natural atmospheric phenomena. 3, it could be industry development programs. 4, it could be foreign adversary systems. What that means is it could be Russia, China, Japan, but they've ruled that out. So you can, if you get this report, just draw a red line through that. China, Russia, Japan do not have this technology. Now listen, because if Russia had this technology, or if China had this technology, they would be in control of the U.S. Congress and everything else in the United States of America. Game over. They don't have that technology. And the government has admitted that it doesn't have that technology. It's not U.S. secret technology. That only leaves one other possibility. And they have made that category, they've called that category other. O-T-H-E-R, other. So if you look at all the 5 categories, the only category that then remains as plausible with respect to what this report says in the first parts that I read to you, then it's other. And in other, it's extraterrestrial. But they have a problem with using the word. They're going to use it because it's very obvious to people who can take this little bit of data that they are reporting on here and logically analyze it. It pretty much drives you or compels you to the conclusion that the source of these UAPs is extraterrestrial. Now, there's a lot of detail that goes along with that we obviously don't have. Other means non-worldly, non-earthly, non-human. And they then go on to say that UAP pose a hazard to safety of flight and could pose a broader danger if some instances represent sophisticated collection against U.S. military activities by a foreign government. Now, they throw that in to throw you off. That's supposed to throw you off because they've already admitted it's not Russia, it's not China, and obviously it's not the United States. So they have little pebbles in the path here to throw you off, to create some doubt in your mind that they very well know what generally they're dealing with there. Then they say that data collectors have 11 reports of documented instances in which pilots reported near misses with a UAP. In other words, almost colliding. Now, let's listen to the point I want to make. If the UAP can make all the maneuvers that they've described and more, and I've seen documentary film, I've seen film that people have taken over the years, decades, and these UFOs, UAPs, can turn a 90-degree angle in a split second at a phenomenal speed, so fast that you will lose sight of it if you try to observe it. In fact, so fast that it would appear that they're disappearing. It's not that they're disappearing. It's just that the speed is faster than your retina can process the experience. And so there's probably a lot of things moving so fast we just don't see them. Because our limited capacity to see inhibits our ability to have a sensation of it. And then they go on to say finally here that Some UAP have been detected near military facilities or by aircraft carrying the most advanced sensor systems. These would be States government's most advanced sensor systems. So again, what I do is I look at that as a kind of body language. Why are they buzzing your military installations? Why are they, what we might say, harassing or bullying your jet pilots in midair? Maybe they have a sense of humor. That's possible. But maybe they're telling you something. Maybe they don't like you. Maybe they're tolerating you. And some people might say, well, why don't they tell us something? Well, why would they? I mean, do you go out and talk to butterflies? So it's, okay, it's us. And maybe because of nuclear weapons and what we're doing to the environment, it's problematic for them. Because obviously they have bases on this planet. And from that point, we must infer that they need certain resources. One thing that I've always asked is, well, what do they eat? I really would like to know what they eat, because if they're organic, then they have metabolism and they have to eat something. Now, maybe they eat minerals. I mean, there's life forms that eat gas and other kinds of minerals deep in caves. Maybe that's what they eat. But I'd like to know. And I like to know what our government knows. The report was very, very skinny in a sense, not anything really hard, but it doesn't take much for you to see that they admit they exist. That's the door's open now, and that should encourage a lot of people to do research, serious research on UAPs, UFO vehicles, and we are not alone. And yes, they are much smarter than us. That they have technology that you cannot begin to wrap your mind around. And so probably, given that given those facts, the whole Milky Way, the whole galaxy, well, not the whole galaxy, but a high percentage of the galaxy is loaded with life, from small life forms to life forms that are far more advanced than us, and may have been in existence 100 million years, 200 million years before the Earth, before our sun was even born. Remember, the universe, they say, is something like 14 billion years old, and it's probably older. We just can't see the light. It's so far away. We will never see the light that was first in the universe we live in. And so there's incredible challenges that we face, along with what we do to each other. And that's a little summary that I'm sharing with you from the report that was released yesterday, in case you haven't had a chance to read it for yourself. I am Dr. Stephen Nur Ahmed. Peace be unto you.